was coming up here to introduce Nayaswami Devarshi, which I'll do in just a moment, but then I look out, and somehow, without a word, our dear friend, Nayaswami Devarshi, has joined us again. So welcome back. We are so happy to have you. Yeah.
I was equally surprised because you were just in India. In my neighborhood, yeah.
So good evening, everyone. I'm looking around and realizing that everybody here already knows Nayaswami Devarshi, and I think we could all say that we are both thrilled and honored to be on your annual tour trip here. We managed to get on his calendar every year, and it's really great for us.
It's sincerely a joy to come to Palo Alto every time I visit. It's not a burden, let me tell you that.
Well, thank goodness for that. You know, we've heard his history a lot, a great soul who has spent really his entire adult life as part of Ananda, who he's done so many things really, but who headed up the Kriya ministry when he lived here, who teaches all the time, and in the most beautiful way. One of our friends was just saying to me a little before the program, yeah, Devarshi, he's on my short list. I watch him all the time. I think many of us do look for your talks and wherever in the world you are. And now in India, among many other things, really just helping to spread these teachings all throughout India, he's also helping to found the monastery, and not just a monastery, but as he says, each time I see him, a monastery that's really representing exactly what Swamiji used to speak about, how he would like the monastery to be. And I think of everyone we know, maybe not singularly, but right at the top of that list, Devarshi could do that. So I realized we gave him this sort of vague topic, which I knew I would forget as soon as I stood up here. It's so vague that I was memorizing it back there a minute ago. But it's really some topic that would allow him to speak about the expansion of Ananda's work around the world, but not just literally, I mean energetically. But what I was thinking about just now, when I couldn't remember the title of the talk, is that I think we all know that no matter what topic we give Devarshi, what he will come and do is share Swamiji's vibration with us in about as pure a form as it could be. And that really is the joy of having you come again and again. When you left last time, I said to myself and to many others, I really felt that I had just had a visit with Swamiji. And I know that's what you would love to know that you were doing. So now let's see what kind of sense you can make out of that topic that we gave you.
Thank you, Shanti. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramhansa Yogananda ji, saints of all religions, beloved friend Swamiji, we humbly bow to you all. Divine Mother, we offer you our gratitude for coming to us through these great souls that you have sent to free us, and through each other as we inspire each other pick each other up, and help each other come home. We are yours. Free us now. Om. Peace. Amen. And we'll do a little bit of chanting. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Satrisham Tattvamasyadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvade Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tvam Namahami Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Chasaka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Sri Yogananda, guide to inner freedom, steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Steal into my heart of hearts, banish my delusions. Let's meditate for a few minutes. Om. 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 Can everyone see me if I stand down here? Yep. Okay. Well, again, it's always a real joy to be here with my Guru Bhais in Palo Alto. It is my favorite community besides Ananda Village. It's second place, but you're up against some big competition. But it's a close second. But it's because of the spirit here and the deep attunement to Swamiji. And I know Swamiji came through many times, and there's a reason why he came through many times, because he was drawn here. And so that attunement and that vibration was here drawing him. And I see it and feel it, and it really is quite a joy. And as Shanti said, I get to talk about anything because it's such a vague topic. I asked her, what am I supposed to talk about? And it's about Ananda's global mission, which is, it sounds grandiose sometimes, and put in those terms. And we do have a global mission, but I'm going to start with just the simplicity of it. I think many of us have heard the story of a visitor, or maybe it was an Ananda person, asking Swamiji at a satsang at the village, what is Ananda's mission? And they asked it in like a really important way. Like, they were wanting the big letters, the all caps and everything. And he smiled and he just said very sweetly and simply, Ananda's mission is to have fun. And the person was taken aback. And then, of course, Swamiji explained that it's to feel joy and to feel God's joy and to express that joy in what we do and to give that joy to others and help to uplift others, and to think of it in terms of what we're doing and in grandiose terms. Yeah, great things come out of it, and it does. Look at this place and your community, and so many amazingly great things continue to grow out of it. But just always come back to that is really important. Just when we come back to joy, the other quality is kindness. Somewhere near the end of his life, there's an interview with him with a Christian, sort of a New Thought kind of a minister, who asked Swamiji, she asked him, she said that, when Master Yogananda, near the end of his life, someone asked him, when you're gone, what can take your place? And Master said, only love can take my place. And she asked Swamiji, so what would Kriyananda say to that question? When you're gone, what do you want to be your legacy? And he mentioned a few things. One is communities, the other one is harmony and people working together. But the one that he gave the most emphasis to was kindness. He said, and you saw this in his life, and he told the story in that context of a visitor to Ananda Village, just in awe, brand new person, telling Swamiji, I just can't believe this place. Every single person is so kind to me. And that touched Swamiji's heart maybe more than anything, more than the big stuff that happens. And so just to always come back to what we can do individually in small ways. And we don't have to be big, important people like school principals or other grandiose titles like that. We can just, it's really, but even in that, it's how we express kindness and joy. And because we all have these titles and responsibilities, and it's these roles that we play. But when we do it with that expression of what Swamiji was really trying to express and get us to tune into, that's really when these changes and just good things really happen. And don't limit yourself to thinking, okay, I have to do something really big. I think it's the smaller things that really, really do it. I was sharing with Jitendra on the drive here, just a memory of just a small thing that I think had a big impact, but multiplied many times over. We have Ananda has a charitable work in Vrindavan in India, where many widows have been abandoned by their families, even just children abandoning their widow mother there for different reasons. I won't get into it, but just, and they're homeless and they get abused and live on the streets. And Ananda came and really started feeding them, helping them. And, a lot of works do this where they bring food and this and that. But pretty soon what we all saw over there and the people who were doing it, I just visit every once in a while, that what these ladies, it wasn't the food that was lacking, it was the respect and dignity that they had lost by being treated as bad luck and other things. And so that was the main mission of our work there is, we house, we feed, we take them to the hospital, we get medical care, but it's really more just to give them the respect and dignity that, they lost really quite severely. And we were there one day, our monks were there, and we were cleaning. Some of them, we have group homes, and some of them live in small, tiny homes. It's hard to call it a home. It's a one-room place that's very dark. But they're there, they do chanting, they love God as Krishna, and they're there in Vrindavan for that reason. But some of these places that we were cleaning, we were doing a deep cleaning. And we had to wear masks because it was so dusty and gloves and everything. And we were cleaning these widows' homes. And this one just looked in awe at these people cleaning her home. And she just asked, why are these babas cleaning my home? And she was puzzled, but also just very, very touched that people would show that kind of love and respect to someone like that, some very simple person. And that those acts of kindness, of giving God's love, the love of Divine Mother, of our Guru, in very simple ways, has a very powerful impact. We don't know how much impact it has. I think many of you knew my wife Maria years ago before she left the body, and she told a story near the end of her life at a Sunday satsang, and it's on YouTube still. And it's an old story from the Ramayana in India, and it touches on this idea that it's not the big things, it's the little things done with extreme light and joy and love. And it's the story of the Indian squirrel. And the Indian squirrel was there with all the other animals during the big events of the Ramayana, and Ram and Hanuman, and everyone was going to rescue Sita and defeat Ravana on the island of Lanka, and they had to build a bridge over there from the Indian mainland to the island of Lanka. And so all the elephants got out there, and they brought these huge rocks out there and started building the bridge, and other people, masons, brought some smaller rocks, and it was a big stuff was happening. And the squirrel was running around and just saying, what can I do? What can I do? And the elephant would sweep it away with its trunk and send it flying. You guys get out of the way. You're getting in our way. We're stepping on you. But the squirrels really wanted to do something. And finally, squirrels are smart, but they're small. And the squirrels saw that, these rocks were all piled up, but there was nothing kind of holding them together, and there was cracks between them, and they were moving and unstable. And so the squirrel would go, dip its tail in the ocean that was there, drag it through the sand, and the sand would stick to the tail, and then it would go running up to the bridge and shake its tail, and the sand would go flying, and it would go falling into the cracks and start to stabilize it. But the big animals didn't see that, and they were getting really annoyed at the squirrel and knocking it out of the way. And yet the squirrel just kept doing this and kept doing this. And finally, at the end of the war, when Ram was thanking everyone, congratulating everyone, celebrating. And he said, especially, I want to thank the hero of building this bridge. And everyone was expecting the elephants and the monkeys who were like superheroes. Hanuman was like a superhero, kind of a strong person. And Ram invited the squirrel up. And he said, the squirrel, they're the ones who actually saw what was needed and did a very simple, tiny little thing that ended up being very important. And he stroked the back of the squirrel with his hand and with his 3 fingers, and that's how the Indian squirrel has these 3 white stripes on his back, is from just that simple act of grace and blessings. And this is what we've seen, that the other side of it is that when we act and we serve in these ways, that we're the ones who are blessed. And to the degree of selflessness and giving and love, that grace flows through us, and we start cooperating with that grace of God, and we start to be changed by it. And this is, for me, this is the great joy of visiting Ananda Village. And it's partly because I've lived with those people for so many years, and it's the same here for you all who have been, many of you doing this for decades, is that without exception, seeing the people who have been serving, even in simple ways, raising a family, just working with the land itself, they're graced, they're blessed, their lives are blessed, and they are achieving really extraordinary freedom inwardly, and divine freedom even. I think even moksha, just from these very simple things, these very simple ways of serving that they're doing. And so this is Ananda's global mission is, Swami Kriyananda, I think one of his great sort of skills that was, not spoken about very often, was involving all of us and encouraging us and helping us all to find ways to serve God and to serve the Guru and to find ways to give, even simple ways, big ways, it doesn't really matter in the end. And this is the way to freedom, is simply to act as an instrument of light. And there's such a need for it in this day and age. And you see this with so much warfare and, people killing each other and brutality and poverty and, there's just so much going on. And the world needs just these constant acts of light and giving and kindness, but done with divine power. It's not just on a human level. It's when we do it, consciously acting as an instrument for the divine. And we'll do an affirmation, I think, at the end that will help us to kind of understand that we all have the divine power and duty, birthright, all these things, to be able to act as their instrument. And that's really the greatness of Ananda. And that's why, when a visitor at Ananda Village, who was not a very frequent visitor, he didn't really understand Ananda all that well. This was about maybe 5 years before Swami Kriyananda left the body. He came to me one day, and he could see that Swamiji was getting older, and he just looked at me and said, I've seen many times, and always really, when a spiritual organization or work, when the founder dies, that it just fizzles out after that. And so what are you guys going to do when that happens? And I kind of reacted. I said, come on, that's not going to happen. But then I had to stop and actually, okay, well, is it going to happen? And why wouldn't it happen? I had to really try to understand it rather than just be reactive. And I knew the moment I started thinking about it, of course that's not going to happen, because the way that Swamiji trained all of us and the way that people are continuing to train people here, and by training I just mean showing how to live and how to serve, is to be a dynamic leader of whatever area we are in. And I could see that the Ananda, Swamiji was amazing at training people in leadership, especially, and passing that on to future generations. We're seeing it happening here in Ananda, Palo Alto. We're seeing it happen in Ananda, India. I see it happen every time I visit Ananda Village. It's just getting passed on, and it's getting stronger and stronger, far from fizzling out. I see it especially in India, because that's where I am all the time, that is just getting more and more powerful, and we're attracting young people who are more and more understanding. It's like, they're way more aware and brought up in a higher kind of an age than I was. In India, people grow up watching the Mahabharata and spiritual things on TV, and I grew up watching the Three Stooges on TV. And somehow I made it through all that. I'm not even kidding. I'm serious about that. I made it through that. And there's so much more coming up now as this age of Dwapara Yuga gets more enlightened. And I see people having more. I see our young people. We have young monks coming in India, and we have other young people coming who are taking over leadership roles and who are becoming saints way more quick than the young ones who came with me and I'm not speaking against anybody. I'm talking more about my own Three Stooges background and all the challenges they're getting through a lot of that karma. But just that people are are coming who are Swamiji's own, really. And it's really amazing there's 9 of us who are living outside of Chandigarh. We're building a monastery, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And maybe I'll ask Biraj to say a little bit, because he's been there more recently than me, actually. But he just has an outsider's view of what we're doing there in a way. It's just barely starting. We'll probably break ground with construction for the first buildings this month. But I'll talk about that more. But these young monks who are coming, they're in their early 20s. They've been highly educated. Because in India, there's a tradition that's unfortunate and unfortunately common, where we get a call, I'm interested in becoming a monk. And you want to know what's motivating you. And you find out, well, I flunked out of college, I lost my job, my parents are kicking me out, and I decided it's time to join the ashram. There's nowhere else to go. And that kind of thing is too common. But we're getting also these young guys who have graduated from the best colleges, IIT universities in India, who had jobs in the corporate world, and they saw one of them, who I'm thinking of, he saw a video of Swami Kriyananda on YouTube, and he knew just from watching that video, this is it. This is my teacher. This is my guru lineage. He's never met Swamiji in person, and he joined the monastery, and now he's a key part of our monastery, and helping take over the gardening there in the monastery, which is really unusual for Indian young men who are IIT graduates and who have these high computer skills and degrees and programming and all that. And because he wants to give his life to God. And just touching on Swamiji's role in this, these young guys in our monastery, again, they've never met Swamiji, and this speaks to how Ananda is growing, and also Swamiji's influence is growing rather than fizzling out. It's really, really growing. And I'm just always pleased when I hear one of our young monks just saying, I was watching a video of Swamiji last night. In his spare time, sometimes in the morning, in the middle of a busy retreat that we're leading, I was watching a video of Swamiji, and it's the one where he said such and such. And these guys are avidly tuning in to talks and the vibration and the teachings that have come through Master, through Swamiji, to all of us. And it's only growing in strength and in power, in good karma and in grace. And I'm seeing that with our monastery, which is just attracting support in every possible way and growing. And, we're establishing something that Swami Kriyananda really wanted established in India. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. But just everywhere you look in the Ananda world, it's just getting stronger and better and growing and expanding. And I'll touch on India just because, again, that's where I am most of the time. And we have teaching centers all over India. We now have a large place we're renting in Pune where we can do bigger events. But it's more that we have young Indians who are giving their lives to serving God full-time and leaving everything behind. And that's the big step for a lot of people, especially in India where there's a lot of pressure from parents to, I'm expecting this child who they got this degree. I helped them go to college. He's my only child. And he was going to take care of me when I got older. It was a very transactional kind of a relationship in the end. It wasn't just pure love. And love is there, but also attachment. But we're seeing young people come, and young women too. Just there's so much pressure to get married, who are holding out past the point where they're no longer marriageable, when they're into their 30s. And I just appreciate their strength in doing that, because they have to stand up against a lot of pressure from their parents who are dragging people to the home to introduce potential spouse for them, and pressure, if you don't get married and if you don't have my grandchildren, and just so much pressure. I'm seeing some of the Indians laughing about this, and it's not just India, it's all over the world and to varying degrees. But we're seeing both young men, young women taking this step of giving their life to Ananda and seeing that serving God and serving the Guru through Ananda can be a lifelong career in a way. And having that as an option is really groundbreaking for what we're trying to do in India, because now we have these high energy people, our monks, because they're all highly skilled. They're doing this amazing work of spreading Yogananda's teachings online. When the pandemic came, they were already starting to share the teachings online. So the skill was there, and not many people were doing it at that time. But when the pandemic hit, especially in India, they just hit the ground running and started training people to receive Kriya through the online classes. And in those years, since then, I've brought about 400 people to Kriya initiation, and they travel and help to lead the initiations all over India, and just are serving in that very dynamic way and doing everything. Doing all the back end, doing all the accounting, doing the bookkeeping, doing the classes. And they're just these really high energy, dynamic, creative people who have just totally given it all to serving of God and Guru. And it's really spreading and growing because of that. And just, I laugh because we were introducing our monks to a visitor one day. And I was just struck by this person has a electronics IIT degree from this college. This one is a certified accountant with a degree from this college. And I realized that we only had one monk who doesn't have a college degree, and that was me. And I was like, I had to say, okay, I'm the dumb one here. I don't have any of this highfalutin learning here. And it's just, we're getting people who are high energy and creative, just like the people here in Palo Alto. It's just one of the joys of Palo Alto is it's not just the high energy and just the really brilliant minds, but it's also, there's a heart quality that is really notable here. In the very earlier days of starting Ananda's work in this coastal area, we first started in San Francisco. And Swamiji just realized that, and he said this, he said, people in San Francisco, they're just too intellectual there. And he came down to Palo Alto after that. And we think of Palo Alto as the brainiest people in the whole universe with everything that's going on here. But he saw, and we've all seen, that there's also, to do great creative new things like Silicon Valley and the whole, everything that goes on here, it takes intuition. It doesn't just take brains, it takes more intuition and balancing that. And intuition comes from heart quality. I shared this, I know before here probably, but the person at Ananda Village who's moved on from Ananda Village, but he's a Kriya Yogi, and he developed the Swipe app, SWYPE, which became this hugely amazing, successful thing. And it was his idea, it was his creation. He just had a very small team who implemented it kind of on his behalf. And I asked him, well, how did you do this? Because he started developing it around like 2006 or 5, before anyone even had such an idea. And I asked him how he developed it. And he said, because he also did the business part of it. And he just said, whenever I would face a problem with the programming or business, I would meditate, I would do Kriya Yoga, I would pray to Divine Mother, and I would ask her to guide me on this, help me to find the answer. And so it was from devotion, intuition, and Kriya Yoga that really developed that. And that's what Swamiji, I think, saw, that there was this dynamic balance with people here and this is what I feel whenever I come here, just the Kriya Yogis here. There's just a really beautiful marriage of just, keen, bright minds with deep, a deeper devotion, not just the emotional dancing up and down and singing kind of devotion, but just this really deep, mature expression of love for God and other people and wanting to help people. And this is why he actually developed that app. It was just wanting to help people communicate better. And before that, he had developed some programming to help handicapped people be able to communicate online. And it was purely this altruistic idea of wanting to help others. And when that wish is there to help others, even starting in simple ways, somehow this divine intelligence starts to flow through and help one and guide us in deeper ways. And Swamiji talked about this, where he said that when you start living in God and practicing the presence of God and acting in God in everything that we do, that divine guidance just naturally starts to come in everything in our lives, and planting the right vegetables at the right time. I'm watching two of our gardeners here who I'm going to visit. We're going to have some garden satsang on Monday, and we're developing our gardens at our monastery on the land there. And it's a very intuitive process. And the way that you start doing and understanding it and coming from intuition is just to start acting and to start doing. And that was, again, Swami Kriyananda's real brilliance with all of us, was just to get us acting and doing. Someone asked him one time, how do I know what my dharma is? And they were asking the question in a big way, dharma in all capital letters, and what's the important thing I'm supposed to do in my life? And he brought it back down to earth. And he said, your dharma is to do whatever is needed right in front of you in this moment. And he was trying just to let people know that just do what's needed right in front of us. And then from that, our life will evolve, because there's this divine intelligence starting to flow through us and guiding us in the right direction, rather than sitting and thinking about it. I talked about this idea once at Ananda Village at a Sunday satsang there, and afterwards this elderly lady from the deep south came up to me with a really rich, deep southern accent. And she says, that's what my grandpappy always said. He says, you can't steer a parked car. And what she was saying is that if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing or where to go, we don't just sit there frozen with the car in park and say, okay, how do I do this? You turn on the key, you start going, and you start trying to understand intuitively where to go, where to turn. But you can't do it just by sitting and asking for it. It's by doing and acting. And that's what Kriya Yoga is. Kriya means action, and karma means action. And we're action yogis in a way, because we serve and we act. And it's really integral to being a Kriya yogi, is finding a way to bring it into action. And once we start doing that, and I saw this with the development of our monastery, because we didn't know how to create a new monastery, and we didn't have a pattern of success with our monasteries ever, really. All the Ananda monasteries throughout history, none of them have ever survived. I mean, it's helped to train some good monks, but none of them, they're all, you could call them all failures, except that many people, came out of them, a lot of our leaders here at Ananda, but none of them survived. And Swamiji wanted one someday, when the timing is right, he said, that would be a long-term, permanent, established place that was a monastery for monks to come and give their life to God in a more of a traditional way, not in a rigid, dogmatic way, but in the ways that he talked about, which maybe I'll share in a bit. And so this comes from just, okay, how do we do this? And it comes just from starting to act. It also came, and I just really would recommend this, from tuning into Swami Kriyananda and asking him, even in meditation, Swamiji, what do you want us to do with this monastery? And when we started doing that really regularly, answers would come, or we would be guided to something that he had written, where he really answered the question really clearly and specifically. And this way of asking that guidance from Yogananda, from Divine Mother, from Swami Kriyananda, what it does is it starts to make us open and receptive to what is trying to happen. And if we don't ask, we're not going to get the answer. It's not going to just come uninvited. God's not going to tell us what to do, just, without us asking first. And so this process is a very simple one of just driving the car, getting going, and as we're driving it, asking, okay, what direction do you want me to go in? And you hit a funny place in the road, which way am I supposed to go? And this is a good description of how to even guide our lives when we're, whether it's a business life, family life. It's not just the Ananda life and what we're doing to serve God and Guru. But when we start doing that, what happens is we start getting in tune with the flow of divine grace. And just the divine starts acting through us just in a very natural way as we start going about our day, as we start going about our life. And I think even guiding the circumstances of our life. And when we're willing to do that, with that asking, with that listening, with that willingness, then we start tuning into divine grace. And this is what I've seen with our monastery, that we we've gotten so much help from so many people that we needed every single one of them. There's about 10 people who have helped us at one time or another, and lacking any single one of them, we would not have made it with what we were trying to do. In one case, it was this person who was sent to us to help us with the change of zoning just so that we could legally build. And it was like the expert in the whole area who's been freely works for us. He doesn't charge us money. He was sent to us. Some friends who showed us how to do natural gardening in India. It's a miracle story, and I've shared this before, but it's as soon as we got to Chandigarh and we began to look for land in that area, the first week I went looking for organic farmers or gardeners in that area because I knew we also wanted to connect with the larger sort of forward-looking world. And there was this Ananda permaculture farm, and they spelled it in a funny way with 2 A's at the beginning and 2 A's at the end. And I think maybe you all know this story, but right away we went out there and discovered that they had that funny spelling because in 2010, when they bought their land, they got a website, and they're famous in India for teaching permaculture and natural gardening. I mean, their YouTube videos get over 1 million views sometimes, and they said that they chose that spelling because some other organization had ananda.org domain name, and they had to come with another spelling on it. And their daughters who, again, I'm repeating myself for many of you, their daughters who did the social media, they were in high school. When they found out Ananda Sangha was coming for a visit, they said, "Mom, they're coming to sue us for using their name." And they were kidding about it. But they've become very good friends and have helped us in endless ways, including with, fulfilling how to build the type of buildings that Swami Kriyananda talked about in his book on design and architecture and gardening called Space, Light, and Harmony, where he really recommended ceilings that were not flat but dome-shaped, and walls with about 90-degree angles and corners. And so they've shown us they've done it with building rammed earth buildings that are just beautifully graceful and elegant, but also in tune with what Swamiji wanted. And it's very interesting because every time we have had a question about how to do something, we've looked, okay, what did Swamiji say about this? And even when it's been really inconvenient, we've made the choice, okay, let's do it the way he said. I mean, I don't know how. No one's doing it. I don't know how we would do this. It's, even with starting a monastery, he wanted monks to have their own cottages, or kutiras as he called them, rather than living under one roof, which is really inconvenient for the construction and building. But we said, okay, he wanted it, we're going to do it. And every time we made that kind of decision, grace came and help came. And just people in India who have helped us in so many ways. It's hard to even explain how much help we've had with buying land, with going to the government offices, getting all the processes done, and just 30, 40 visits to government offices, and just everything comes when we cooperate with divine grace. And that's the power of Ananda expanding really all over the world, is that the power of Swamiji's efforts, what he started with Ananda, it's the power of divine grace, and it only grows. It doesn't fizzle out. It really is expanding and growing, and that's what we're seeing in India with people coming, with really bright new people coming. And it's partly because we're in an ascending yuga cycle. It's Dwapara Yuga, but it's an ascending cycle where the light is getting stronger. And you may not think so looking at the world, but Swamiji said that the darkness is seeing that the light is getting stronger as just a natural part of this cycle, and is kind of giving its death throes of trying to hold on to the old archaic ways of religion and politics and dictatorships and brutality with war and all these things. And so there is a battle of light and darkness, but it really, really needs people who are willing to put themselves out and to serve the light in this day and age. And fortunately, Swamiji showed us how to do that. Master showed us how to do that. The Kriya Yoga book, which maybe I'll just talk a little bit about this, because it's kind of has a life of its own now. it's kind of like I wrote this, and we did a satsang here last year on this. And one of the joys of writing a book is that when you're finished, and especially if you really consciously feel that you're not the author and that God and the gurus wrote it kind of through you, and you're just working on their behalf. I've joked here and other places that I feel like a fraud because this book has my name on the front. It's like, no, I didn't. Someone else wrote that book. But once you write it, then it has its own life. And we're seeing this in India. We're seeing people who, this one man came to Chandigarh. He came to a book launch event. And it was the first time he'd ever been to Ananda. And he got a signed copy of the book. And this was the very first book he ever read for Ananda, of any connection with Ananda. He got the book, he went home, and he said he read it in 4 hours, cover to cover, and he now has Kriya Yoga. And so it's reaching brand new people, and of course, as we know, it's supporting longtime Kriya Bandhs. And I didn't know this, but just it's been translated in Italian, and it's already out. I had no idea it was even being translated. And all of a sudden I saw the book in Italian in the cover, and who did this? And so it does have a life of its own and momentum, and I think this is a long-term kind of momentum. And it's also starting to be translated in Indian languages, in Hindi. And so just, it has legs and it's starting to really move along. So now I think I'll just talk a little bit more about the monastery and just where it's at. And maybe just have Biraj say a few words too, because he was just there. We just had a groundbreaking ceremony. It's called a Bhumi Puja, the land blessing. And we've had 3 land blessings there, for different times and different reasons. Strangely enough, every time we've had a land blessing, it rained that day. And it's an arid place. It's like gets as much rain as we might get at Ananda Village. And there's been unseasonable rain at times. And it's almost like Divine Mother's blessing, because it always cleared up when we actually had to be outside doing things. And I think, was there some rain that day, or there was?
We all brought umbrellas.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be a downpour.
Yeah.
And then when we finally, a ditch stood up and started to speak, and all the water left.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. We had Jyotish Devi and Dhyana Jaya come, and we had a tent, a pandal. It was raining so hard that it was starting to collapse, and water was starting to pour through these holes in there, and we were supposed to give a talk and all this and chanting and everything, and right when it was supposed to begin, all of a sudden it stopped, and then the sun came out, there was a rainbow, and it was just really very blessed and magical there. And so we just did the official groundbreaking ceremony. When you start a building, you do a groundbreaking ceremony just to bring the blessings of the Devas and Divine Mother and the Gurus. And it's really especially important for the people who are going to be working there, the laborers, to see that we're doing this all in the right way. And these Bhumi Pujas, I've been involved in a couple as kind of the officiator. And they're done for all kinds of reasons. But I did one where at our center in Gurgaon, we got a new generator. There's this big, huge new generator, brand new. So they asked me to go and do the Bhumi Puja, not the Bhumi, but the Puja for the generator. And you put a tilak on the front of the generator, you break the coconut just like you do with the traditional ceremony for a generator. And there's a annual event where machines are worshipped and blessed. And you'll see garlands on cars, on the front of cars, and tilaks on the front of cars and such. And it's actually very sweet because it brings God into every part of one's life. And it just, we need more of that. We think that Swamiji laughs. He says that he doesn't know anything about cars. He just knows that when he turns the key, it propitiates the engine to start as a worship, and it starts the car. But it's actually, it helps us to see God in everything when we have that attitude. And, it's, in this very overly rational world that we live in, we need more of that. Yeah, we also have to be practical and use common sense. And so we've been working for about 3 years now, working with getting a change of the zoning for the permissions on the land, getting a site plan approved by the government, and all those things have finally been approved. We've worked with a team of architects, and now we're working on the final structural engineering because we're doing it in a very legal way. it has to get signed off and approved by structural engineers. And so they're working on how to do these brick domes. And, because we're in a seismic zone 4 is what it is, out of 5 seismic zones. And so it has to be engineered really, really well. And so they're kind of working through that process right now. And then sometime in the next couple of weeks, we'll break ground with the first buildings there. And the first building, it's very sweet, actually. The name is going to be a dining room, large kitchen to feed up to 18 monks, and also have big events occasionally, and a living room. And then there'll be small courtiers outside and around it. But that main house is going to be called Chela Bhavan. And it's not just after here, it's because the first, eventually the newer monks will live right in that cluster right next to that building and part of this Chela Bhavan complex. And Chela means child, but also is a disciple. And so that's partly the origin of that term, but also kind of it tunes us into Ananda Palo Alto in a very sweet way. And so those will be the first buildings put up, and we're working on a temple design it's just going to be a smaller temple we're trying to find a way to build a small temple of light model there, but the building methods are different and just wood can't be used very easily, and so we're trying to work that out. But it'll be just maybe like the Moksha Mandir at Ananda Village, that a little bit bigger than that, but kind of that kind of idea, just partly also just to connect us with our Guru Bhais all over the world, and in Italy and the village and in Seattle and maybe someday here with a proper temple of light like that. And so we also found a really brilliant contractor who was just really, Divine Mother is sending us the best people for this. It's really quite amazing. People, when they see the land and when they see what we're doing and when they see who our monks are, they're just really inspired. They just want to be part of it. And we have a volunteer architect who has helped us all along the way, who just wants to be part of this divine project that they see. And they meet us and they meet our monks and they see just this selflessness and joy of doing something great for God. And there's just what I've seen is that when selfless people are trying to do selfless acts and big selfless acts like building a monastery that's never been done before for Swamiji and Ananda, that selfless people attract selfless people in the neighborhood and in the area, and really brilliant and bright ones. And so what we're doing is very unusual because a lot of ashrams get built in India, and it's more of a traditional kind of a thing that's done. And they see our monks and they see that these guys are something really different than the norm. They see these really bright guys with education and all that, and high energy. See them working out and creating a garden and doing all these things, and people want to help and be part of that just in any way that they can. And so that help is also coming in many ways. So probably in a year and a half, we could start moving out there. It'll take some time to start developing the buildings and such. And in the meantime, we're planting trees. Each monsoon, we plant some trees. We've already planted a number of mango trees in the last few years, lychee, guava, and some are just starting to have the first green fruit ever. So we're going to get some lychees this year, and we're going to get some guavas. We're starting to get some mulberries out there. Mangoes will take some time more. But this coming, when I return in June, we'll plant a lot of citrus, oranges, grapefruit, lemon. We'll plant more lychee. We'll plant something called chiku, which is just a very much beloved fruit in India. Just the name chiku. Just when you say that name, people just their eyes light up, and it's hard to describe. It's a small, brown, unassuming fruit. It sort of has the texture of a pear, that sort of grainy texture, and it's very sweet and very nice fruit. Also used in milkshakes and chiku shakes and ice cream and things like that. We'll plant pomegranate. We'll plant a lot of papayas coming up. We'll plant starfruit, which grows really well there. Peaches can grow there. And a lot more olives. People are really starting to grow olives in some parts of India, and they can grow there. And we'll have shrines to our gurus, and there'll be a small olive grove with a shrine to Jesus there as that sort of outdoor shrine, and just many wonderful things happening out there. And more fruit, there's one called sitafal, which is it's called custard apple or cherimoya. It has a lot of different names in this country. And there's even more of those kinds of things coming up. So we'll do that when I get back in June. Vegetables are being grown. We've created these beds outlined by stones that are in an arc, a semicircle arc around these two sacred trees. There's two 70-year-old trees there on the land. One's a peepal tree, other one's a jamun tree. And it's almost like they're the guardians of the land. And I know Biraj has seen it. I know Haley has been there and seen our land too. And I think those two out of everybody here have seen it. Anyone else has been out there? I don't think. Biraj, do you want to just stand up and say a few words? Just partly about our monks. You got to meet some of our young monks who helped to lead the program.
Yeah, no, it was really quite impressive. Lahari and I spent basically 24 hours with the monks, half of it out on the land and half of it in town. And they're a unique and special group of folks. They really are.
Yeah, and Biraj was at the earlier attempt at a monastery on the Pune land and has seen Indian monks come and go. And he's right, this is a unique opportunity and time.
Yeah, most of the prior monks are now called husbands.
Yeah.
But no, it's really quite sweet. And these two trees that you talk about, the Bhumi Puja that happened, we were right in front of the trees. The trees were our altar, basically. And all around those trees are these wonderful arcs of the garden, the planted vegetables. And it's just, most of the rest of the land is just completely bare. It's just, other than the periphery, which has these, I don't know, how many trees do you suppose you have around the bushes?
About 120 trees.
Yeah, all around the edge. So you hardly see the fence that demarks the land. But it's just, but what we got to do that day was to walk to these different sites that had been marked out for, okay, this is going to be the dining room. This is going to be the kutir for all the new monks. It was just, and then having the actual groundbreaking at the Bhumi Puja itself with the coconuts and all the things they do. I don't know, but there was something. I'm not a big ritual guy. I often not sure whether I should believe in some of the rituals that happen. But there was power on that land, that moment, that day, as you know, even the architect and even the builders were out there, you know, putting their shovelful of soil moved for the very first building, and I was moved. It was wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you. And you know, part of what has made it possible also is that somehow we have all these really brilliant young monks. We also have a monk who's been a gardener, myself, for many years. I was a full-time gardener farmer for my first 14 years at Ananda, and I've kept going with that. So we have someone who can help with developing the land and train monks in being gardeners. We have Nayaswami Shankara, who used to be called Jamal, who many of you know, who is a trained mechanical engineer, Yale graduate, who helped to just oversee a lot of the construction at our Pune community. And so he's really running now with working with the architects, with the contractor, with, you know, just kind of leading that side of it. And we have these young monks who are now taking on big parts of the whole project, where one of them is really coordinating all the engineers, architects, hiring people. The other one is kind of a support person on the land for, you know, things that need to get done in the construction process. One who is really leading the way with gardening. Another one who has learned the trees and is kind of leading that, you know, working with me closely with tree planting and design and all that. And so it's just a sort of unusual concurrence of people brought together that I just can't help but feel that Master, Divine Mother said, okay, the timing is right to do this, and you'll need this, you'll need that, you'll need this person, and here they all are, and start cooperating. And these guys are amazingly harmonious. This is about the most harmonious group I have ever worked with. There's just a lot of joy, there's a lot of laughter. there's a lot of energy and focus and just a lot of close working together and divine friendship in an inward way, because there's all very inward monks that we have with a deep spiritual life, but also with a high degree of selflessness and wanting to do things, great things for God and for Guru, and little things too. So I think, is there anything else you want me to ramble on about? And questions about what we're doing in India or about India or Ananda's work there or anything?
When you have a question that you want to, and I assume from what you said that you want the whole group to receive the wisdom. When you have a question that you want the whole, a larger group to receive wisdom about, I don't know how to ask the question. What's the first step? Who takes the lead? What kind of process? Is there a process? And what kind of sort of prayer structure do you use?
Yeah, it's not formal in that sense. And for one thing, I took the lead with a lot of just the early steps of how are we going to do this. And I was asked, by Jyotish Devi, Jaya, Dhyana, to lead and, help to guide and direct a new kind of monastery and the direction of what we were doing. And actually, they didn't ask me to do a new kind of monastery. They just asked me to kind of hold things together. But then I realized, it's not going to hold together unless we do it in a really new way. And so it was just really praying all the time. How can we do this? What do we need to do? Sometimes and it wasn't a formal thing, it was just, Swamiji, how are we going to do this? And then an answer would come. And we shifted away from Pune city so that we would have some separation. That was a big step. Ananda Monastery had never kind of moved away from being part of the main action of a center. And it was the right step, and people weren't sure, but we were given the chance to try it, and it started creating a really strong, cohesive magnetism of our own. And right in the middle of the pandemic, we realized, okay, it's time to buy land. And the pandemic was a big trigger. It was like, okay, this is kind of a wake-up call. Master talked about buy land in the country because of what's coming, and so we took that as a wake-up call. Okay, and we also realized that we were ready to find land. We had no money or anything. And we could be anywhere in India. And it's a good question because, okay, where do we go to build a monastery? And somehow the area around Chandigarh kept coming up from different people in different ways. And we really weren't sure because Ananda didn't have anything in Chandigarh, and most Ananda people had never even been there because it's in the far north and it's a very small city. And so a couple of us went there just to kind of feel it out because we were starting to get guidance that, this could be it. And so we went there, and you try to feel in your heart, is this the right thing? How does it feel being here? And every step that we took, the answer was, yes, this is the right direction. But we also, you can't be presumptuous. Swamiji, when he would intuit something, he wouldn't be presumptuous and say, I had this intuition. He would always humbly and sometimes in a childlike way ask Jyotish Devi, I had this thought, what do you think? And he would ask for that guidance. And so it's not a structure or a formal thing. It's just driving the car, asking, looking, feeling it out. But interestingly, soon after we started to settle on the idea of Chandigarh, we heard two things that were really interesting. One, I had never heard this before that. Swamiji told people that if he reincarnates, he would reincarnate in the Punjab, which is that region around Chandigarh. So that place has a power. He's going to reincarnate there. And so maybe we're kind of going there just to get things ready in some way. Maybe, I'm only half joking. But then we also learned that when he was living in Gurgaon, very early on, before we had land or anything in Pune, he sent someone to look for land for a community, for Ananda in India, and he sent them to look for land near Chandigarh, because he just thought highly of that area, and the Punjabis and the Punjabi Sikhs, and it's a high energy place, that region. And he thought very highly of that region, but maybe he was also tuning into this intuition that he would be reborn there, because he told several people that. So we also had some confirmation that this is the right direction by hearing things like this after we had already sort of started tuning into it. But then also just, again, you can't ever be presumptuous. And every step we took, support came. And so it's again, I've shared this here, but it's like a 3-step process that we did that I've learned to do, which is to ask, to listen, and to act. Those 3 things. Ask, listen for the answer, and act. Even if you don't get the answer, you can't steer a parked car. And so you have to start acting. And so asking and praying, listening intuitively, sensitively, and acting, I see those 3 as kind of all at the same time. Kind of like driving a car. You're driving and you're looking and listening and still driving, and just so it's sort of an intuitive flow that you get into. And for me, that's kind of more the way to try to tune into divine wisdom. And that's why I always appreciate Swamiji, the way he expressed it, is what's trying to happen. Because that kind of takes it into a way that's not so grandiose and too much pressure. I got to get the answer, and I have to hear the voice of God telling me what it is. And it's more just a very simple, humble, okay, what's trying to happen here? And asking that question, what's trying to happen, is a nice way just to open your intuition on a more subtle and simple level rather than a process in a way. But that is the process that, if there is one, is that praying, asking, listening, and acting as a thing to do in life, period, just with whatever we're doing, because we're all steering the car of our life, the car of whether it's our family or the role that we've been given in life. And so it's a good way of doing it. And eventually it's being in the flow of divine guidance and wisdom rather than, receiving it as a declaration or a pronouncement or, looking it up in the index of the book. There's this practice I just shared, because it's kind of funny, where people sometimes, it's a tradition where people will pray to Jesus for an answer, and then they'll randomly open up the Bible to get the answer. And I've heard people do this with Autobiography of a Yogi. So I did this once. It was the only time I've ever done it. And you'll hear why. So, because I was going through a testing time, and I really prayed to Master, okay, I really need to know how I can get through this inward test I'm going through. And so, okay, the answer is going to be in the Autobiography of a Yogi, and I'll open it up. And the very first sentence was Master telling this young child in Ranchi, "You shall soon be dead." And so I thought, well, maybe I'm looking at the wrong side of the page. So maybe I'll look on the other side of the page. And the other side of the page was when I think it was either Lahiri Mahashaya told his disciples he was going to drop the body and leave the body soon, or maybe it was a disciple of Lahiri. So I closed the book and said, okay, let's see if I'm soon dead. And that was probably about 25 years ago. So soon maybe has a different meaning in God's time. But anyways, there's different ways to receive guidance. And I think Master was telling me, don't do it this way. There's other ways that I want you to do it. But it's interesting because I think partly, I think Master wants us to develop our intuition. Because there's a guy who came to me in India, and he said that he was really torn because he was, wanting his child, I think it was a daughter, to go to school. And there was 2 of these private schools that he just didn't know which one to send her to. And he just couldn't figure out which was the best one. And he wanted me to answer it for him. And he said, and I've written each one on a piece of paper, and I want you to just randomly pick up one of these pieces of paper and tell me that will be the one. I said, I'm not going to do that. Come on, you need to develop your own intuition. That's what Master is trying to kind of push you to try to learn how to answer questions like that, because he wants us to grow in that kind of an understanding that's more sensitive than formulaic or ritualistic. And I think he was okay with my answer in the end, and I put it back on him, and I said, well, describe them to me. He said, well, they're just really just the same. And I said, well, maybe it doesn't matter, but you have to kind of tune in and take responsibility for it. I think he was wanting to throw the responsibility on me to do it and not take responsibility. But we also just need to learn how to work with these things in our own way. And it comes from experimentation. It comes from failure at times in trying and crashing the car rather than parking it or steering it. And then we learn how to work with these things more and more over time. Okay, any other questions?
Is there a website?
Yeah, there is. And it's gurukripaforesthermitage.org. And maybe someone can send you, because that's a really long name. So the name of our ashram is Guru Kripa Forest Hermitage. And we are building a forest there, because we're not going to be living in the blazing sun, driving tractors and with pitchforks and big hats to keep from getting burnt by the sun. We're going to be living in a forest of fruit trees, native trees, with garden beds here and there. And Guru Kripa is Guru's grace. And it's what Swamiji named his first home in India, was Guru Kripa. And it's also just a phrase that was really important to him. The grace of the Guru is something that comes at all times in our lives. And it really started, I think, the first time I think that he talked about that phrase is when he was thrown out of SRF, and he just really had no idea what to do with his life, and he was just totally crushed by it. And he wrote to Ananda Ma, the Bengali saint, how can I make any sense of this? I mean, just my Guru Bhais have abandoned me and thrown me on the street, basically, and how do I even know what to do, and what's the purpose of this? And she wrote back and said, try to see this as your Guru's grace. And he said it was the last thing he could see it as. But then he learned that it was Master trying to help him really start Ananda and do what he was intended to do, and it had to come through that method, and it was the Guru's grace. And so he really taught us to try to see everything as the Guru's grace, and even hard things, because the Guru has come to free us and liberate us, and not to make life easier for us. And so even the hard things, if we really open our heart and give our lives to the Guru, even the hard things are really his help to kind of push us in a particular direction that we wouldn't be going on our own, or we would resist. And he gives us no choice but to go in this direction, and maybe to figure out what direction to go in. And so that's a very important word, actually, to Swamiji, to all of us. Interesting, it's also a very common phrase in Punjab. And a lot of Punjabi Sikhs, Guru Kripa is just a really important concept there in the Sikh tradition. And we were driving out to our land one day, and there was a water tanker truck. Guru Kripa was the name of their water company. And just you see that phrase out there more than anywhere else in India that I've seen, actually. Yeah, so there's the website. You can share it with. It's a really nice website. It really explains why we're doing what we're doing, how we're doing it. It has a lot of photos. It has a lot of Swamiji's, principles of design and why we're doing in those ways. It has photos of our monks and what our monks are doing. Question?
Earlier you mentioned doing an affirmation.
Yes. Okay. Let's do an affirmation. I find this affirmation really helpful because, I'll explain. I think we all go through periods where we think, well, I can't do this. I can't find liberation in this life because I have this habit, this desire, this attachment. I struggle with meditation or whatever it is, and we think, I can't do this. And it's kind of it's a real delusion. It's the greatest delusion of all in a way, because it kind of holds us back from, one, believing that we can find liberation and moksha and be free in this life, or serve the guru or give our lives completely to God. But it's also just a great delusion because it just, I think it causes doubt. It causes people to leave the spiritual path. And this affirmation turns that around. And it really helps. I find it really, really helpful just with my sadhana, but also with my service and what I'm doing. And it's Master's affirmation for psychological success. And we used to do this in the very early monastery of Ananda in the 1970s. We would do it once a week, all the monks, just really in a really rousing, dynamic kind of a way. And it's a really powerful affirmation. It's long, but it's worth memorizing and practicing it regularly. And I think we'll do it tomorrow too for the Kriya Bandhs when we come together. Just as it's a very effective spiritual practice. And it really helps us realize that we can be instruments of the light in very dynamic and very powerful ways as instruments of God and the Guru, that all of us can do that. It's not just for, the ones who seem more spiritual or have their lives more together or have a better sadhana or whatever. It's really each one of us. So let's practice it together. We'll do it. It'll take some time. We'll do it really loudly at the first time through. Then we'll do it whisperingly, and then we'll do it mentally. So let's sit upright. This is a good practice to do at the end of your sadhana or at the beginning of your meditation. So concentrate at the spiritual eye. And again, these are Master's spiritually infused words. And repeat after me. I am brave, I am strong.
I am brave, I am strong.
Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me.
Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me.
I am cool, I am calm.
I am cool, I am calm.
I am sweet, I am kind.
I am sweet, I am kind.
I am love and sympathy.
I am love and sympathy.
I am charming and magnetic.
I am charming and magnetic.
I am pleased with all.
I am pleased with all.
I wipe away all tears and fears.
I wipe away all tears and fears.
I have no enemy.
I have no enemies.
I am the friend of all.
I am the friend of all.
I have no habits
I have no habits.
in eating, thinking, behaving.
In eating, thinking, behaving.
I am free, I am free.
I am free, I am free.
I command thee, O attention,
I command thee, O attention,
to come and practice concentration
to come and practice concentration
on things I do, on works I do.
on things I do, on works I do.
I can do everything when so I think.
I can do everything when so I think.
When so I think.
When so I think.
In church or temple. In prayer mood.
In prayer mood,
My vagrant thoughts against me stood.
my vagrant thoughts against thee stood,
And held my mind from reaching thee.
and held my mind from reaching thee,
And held my mind from reaching thee.
and held my mind from reaching thee.
Teach me to own again, O own again.
Teach me to own again, O own again,
My matter-souled mind and brain.
my master soul, mind, and brain,
That I may give them to thee.
that I may give them to thee
In prayer and ecstasy.
in prayer and ecstasy,
In meditation and reverie.
in meditation and reverie.
I will worship thee.
I will worship thee
In meditation and seclusion.
in meditation and seclusion.
I will feel thine energy.
I will feel thine energy
Flowing through my hands in activity. Lest in sloth I lose thee.
lest in sloth I lose thee.
I shall find thee in activity.
I shall
And now whispering, but with great power, I am brave, I am strong. Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I am cool, I am calm. I am sweet, I am kind. I am love and sympathy. I am charming and magnetic. I am pleased with all. I wipe away all tears and fears. I have no enemy. I am the friend of all. I have no habits in eating, thinking, behaving. I am free, I am free. I command thee, O attention, to come and practice concentration on things I do, on works I do. I can do everything when so I think, when so I think. In church or temple, in prayer mood, my vagrant thoughts against me stood and held my mind from reaching thee, and held my mind from reaching thee. Teach me to own again, oh, own again, my matter, soul, mind, and brain, that I may give them to thee in prayer and ecstasy, in meditation and reverie. I will worship thee in meditation and seclusion. I will feel thine energy flowing through my hands in activity, lest in sloth I lose thee. I will find thee in activity. And now mentally only, concentrating deeply at the point between the eyebrows, I am brave, I am strong. Perfume of success thoughts blows in me, blows in me. I am cool, I am calm. I am sweet, I am kind. I am love and sympathy. I am charming and magnetic. I am pleased with all. I wipe away all tears and fears. I have no enemy. I am the friend of all. I have no habits in eating, thinking, behaving. I am free, I am free. I command thee, O attention, to come and practice concentration on things I do, on works I do. I can do everything when so I think, when so I think. In church or temple, in prayer mood, my vagrant thoughts against me stood and held my mind from reaching thee, and held my mind from reaching thee. Teach me to own again, oh, own again, my matter, soul, mind, and brain, I may give them to thee in prayer and ecstasy, in meditation and reverie. I will worship thee in meditation and seclusion. I will feel thine energy flowing through my hands in activity. Lest in sloth I lose thee, I shall find thee in activity. Om, peace. Amen. That affirmation is also a very good teaching tool for how we should be. And, charming and magnetic. I am charming and magnetic. Who would think, okay, why do I need that? But the Master is saying, yes, saints are charming and magnetic, and we want those divine qualities, not on just a personal and human level. Okay. Right, should we wind up? Okay. Why don't we just close by sharing grace and blessings that we feel with all the world. And let's pray. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in their bodies, minds, and souls. Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om. Peace. Amen. And tomorrow for Kriya we have a Kriya retreat morning, 7 to 10 meditation, and then a break or short break. And then some satsang till what time? Till 12. Okay, good. Come pre-energized. And we'll do the affirmation again tomorrow too, just to kind of get it in there deep. Okay, thanks. Good to see everybody. So many good friends here. That's very sweet.